There is a life ring on the top deck. If someone falls overboard, tell me. Throw it, and we will go back and retrieve them. Was the captain joking about passengers falling overboard? Welcome to the Week 23 update of Ingrid and Ethan's 2024 Big Year.
Actually, that would be Ethan and Ingrid's big year, as you can see below.
These were pre-trip instructions from Captain Patterson as we stood on the deck of the Stormy Petrel II with 20 other birders in Hatteras, North Carolina. Pelagic trips are key to a successful big year. There are dozens of seabird species that patrol the oceans of the world, only coming to land to nest and raise their young. The rest of the time, they fly over or float upon the ocean. As we began our 11-hour journey out into Pimlico Sound, the sunrise put on a stunning show. Shortly after reaching our target area, the crew, led by legendary pelagic bird guide Kate Sutherland, began to chum the water. For those unfamiliar with the term, chumming is the practice of luring seabirds close to a boat with food that they love but that we would find revolting. It wasn't long before we had our first sightings of Wilson's storm petrels and Audubon shearwaters. Gradually, interest built and more birds were coaxed in. Band-rumped storm petrels, Leach's storm petrels, and black-capped petrels among them. Over approximately 90 minutes, we were treated to views of a wide variety of pelagic birds. Parasitic and Pomerian Jaegers stopped by. Corys, Scopoles, and great shearwaters joined the mix, and then it stopped, as if the pause button was hit and never restarted. As we watched and waited, we enjoyed chatting with fellow birders, eating an early lunch, and praying that the Bermuda petrel that had made a brief appearance on yesterday's trip would come flying by our boat. It did not. Then came the return trip. During the 3-hour run-in, we both got more than a little bit wet. In fact, we were drenched. But we were determined to stay on deck in case any new birds should appear. We were both rewarded with sightings of a red-necked phalarope and later a sooty shearwater sitting on the surf. In all, we got 9 new birds for the year and 1 new lifer, the band-rumped storm petrel. And fortunately, the life ring did not need to be employed. Over the next 2 days, we made our way to Boston for a flight to Michigan. Along the way, we were happy to add 2 more birds to our year list, a yellow-breasted chat in Virginia and a Dick Sissel in Delaware. While neither one of us loves pre-dawn flights, they do allow us more time to bird once we get to our destination. After arriving in Detroit early Thursday morning, we drove directly to a location where golden-winged warblers had been reported. After making a few wrong turns that led to soaking wet feet, we eventually found the boardwalk and a couple of singing males. The next stop was the primary reason for this trip, the endangered Kirtland's warbler. Nearly extinct 50 years ago, the Kirtland's warbler has now recovered to about 2,000 breeding pairs. This habitat specialist only nests in northern Michigan and only in jack pine trees between 6 and 12 feet high, in a forest that has burned in the last 20 years. Fire is destructive for sure, but for some species of birds and mammals, it is life-sustaining. A life bird for us both. As we've mentioned in earlier recap videos, birders traditionally celebrate with a piece of pie after seeing a lifer bird. A wonderful tradition, but Ethan and I have seen 126 and 133 lifer birds this year. That's entirely too much pie.
Not true.
As a compromise, we went to a wonderful brew pub in Grayling, Michigan, called Paddle Hard Brewing, and had pizza pie. On Friday, we headed further north into Michigan's Upper Peninsula to hunt for spruce grouse and sharp-tailed grouse, and failed miserably. But we did see Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, and Lake Superior, and each of us was visited by at least 100 ticks climbing up our pant legs. The yellow rail is a tiny bird that rarely ever comes out into the daylight. Instead, hiding in thick, yucky, swampy, mosquito-infested reeds. Only after dark, it will sing sporadically, a faint song that sounds like two pebbles being tapped together. Unless you know what to listen for, you'd never notice the calling yellow rail, and they like it like that. About the only way to possibly see a yellow rail is to attend the Rails and Rice Festival in Louisiana, where birders ride in vans next to a rice harvester, and the rails fly up and disappear in seconds. But in a big year, we didn't have to see the yellow rails, we just had to hear them. And they were being heard on a busy causeway that crosses Houghton Lake. There, after dark, Ethan and I were joined by a group of Mennonite birders from Indiana, and together we walked up and down the causeway, hoping to hear the tapping song of the yellow rail, and avoid getting hit by cars whizzing by just a few feet away. Happily, our group all heard the rails several times and got good recordings. The yellow rail was our 571st bird of the year. On our way to Detroit, we just had to stop at the world's largest Christmas store, Bronner's Christmas Wonderland in Frankenmuth, Michigan. Tomorrow, we head back home for about 10 days. We will search Maine for spruce grouse, olive-sided flycatchers, and a mourning warbler before our next trip to the Pacific Northwest.
Thanks for watching this weekly recap of Ethan and Ingrid's 2024 Big Year. Remember to visit our blog at bigyearbirding.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button. And if you want more of this silliness, we also have a Facebook and Instagram page. Happy birding!